There's a trilogy released by Montegrappa called Brain that we'd like to dive deeper into today. And while we explore these incredible pens, we'll also discover why handwriting is so important for the brain and memory, backed by studies from scientists such as Dr. Richard Restak. Hey good fellas, I'm Naldi and we are at Style of Zug. Today I'm very excited to show you one of Montegrappa's most meaningful collections that they've ever done. I'm talking about the Brain Trilogy. This series that Montegrappa has created is all about celebrating the human brain and how it works. And as I was mentioning in the intro, it was created together with Dr. Richard Restak, which is a very well-known neurologist who has spent his life studying the brain of the human. Good fellas, this year I have a goal and it's reaching 50,000 subscribers. So if you would help me out with that, it's totally free. Subscribe to the channel and you won't miss out on any future content that is coming up. And of course, the trilogy has 3 pens. Each one focuses on different aspects of the brain: thought, memory, and how we understand time. So for all watch collectors out there, once again, you see how handwriting and time come together and are kind of connected together. And good fellas, you will actually see that every pen is absolutely unique. And we're definitely talking about a collection that you might have heard about, but maybe, like myself before this video and the script, you haven't gone in depth into it. That's exactly what we're gonna do. And so we started with the first of the series, the Brain Pen, where it all began. Released in 2013, the Brain Pen is inspired by the brain itself and the way it looks and the way it works. And as you can see here, first thing that we discover from the box is the fact that there is a book from Richard Restak about the brain. I mean, honestly, I would really love to read the book. I will have to ask the collector who's gonna get this trilogy if he's gonna allow me to do so. But let's discover the pen itself, which comes in this box here. We open it up like that and we discover the pen. On the box here, there's a writing saying, "Writing nourishes the brain." That's something we always talk about and we really cherish and we truly believe in, the importance of writing for our brain, especially today during this digital era. And so we see that this beautiful writing instrument has a black resin barrel and a cap that is made out of sterling silver with a pattern of twisting and curving lines that represent neurons, which are the cells that carry messages in our brain. And these designs are not just beautiful, but they also remind us of how complex and incredible our brain is. Just give it a second to look at it. On the top of the cap, we see that there is an engraving of a brain cross-section, and that's usually the kind of view that a doctor might see when he's studying the brain and shows all the important parts inside the brain. And then there's the clip, which is shaped like a spinal cord and finished with a very subtle red lacquered tip. And the interesting is that if the tip is red, then it's a fountain pen, and if it's black, it's a rollerball. And this little thing about this little red tip here that is a fountain pen or a rollerball if it's black really shows how much thought Montegrappa puts in their editions. And for me, it's also a very interesting correlation to the brain. Depending if we're looking at something or at something else, our brain reacts completely differently. And then the nib has also a very special meaning. This is the usual big number 8 nib that Montegrappa also uses for their 1930. And on the nib here, we have the embossing of a seahorse, two-tone. Why? Because part of our brain, the hippocampus, looks actually like a seahorse. And this exact part of our brain is where our memories are created and then stored. So it's very interesting to know, also reading this book here, that Dr. Restak says that the handwriting helps the brain in a very unique way. When we write by hand, we slow down and we engage more of our brain. And this, of course, helps us to process the information and remember things much better than when we just type them. And then number two, the memory pen that came out after the brain pen and focuses on now how our memory works. So this specific edition of Montegrappa is all about how we remember and explore things, how we store, organize, and recall information. Just look at this wonderful packaging also that comes with the pen. And again, we have a book from Dr. Richard Restak that speaks specifically about the memory. I mean, just these books are already worth so much, also because they're published by Montegrappa, which makes this series, this trilogy, even more special. Now, if we look at the pen itself, the pen's design is covered with intricate engravings on 925 sterling silver, and it almost looks like symbols or codes, and these are inspired by the pathways in our brain that memory travels through. It's like the pen is showing us what's happening inside our minds when we try to remember things. As I was already telling you, the very special thing is this specific book, because this book here explains the science of memory in a simple way, and it even helps to decode the engravings on the pen. So it's not just a writing instrument once again, but it's actually a tool that helps us understand us better. Now let me also tell you the fact that handwriting plays, of course, a big role in memory. Different studies show that when we write things down, we're more likely to remember things, also because writing activates more areas of the brain. So there's more activity in our brain, and you can just imagine how much of an impact this has on our daily life then. That is why a lot of us, and people in general, should be jotting down much more, journal, and still practice handwriting despite being in an era where everything is digital on computer, MacBooks, iPads, or iPhones. And now let's talk about the last of the trilogy, the Time and Brain pen from 2019. And the Time and Brain pen is probably one of the most unique and complex pen in the collection. And this is all about how our brain understands time. And as I told you, for all watch collectors, you see, this is really where pen collecting and watch collecting comes together in terms of philosophy. So what's truly beautiful is that this pen also represents how we remember the past, how we experience the present, and how we imagine the future. The first thing that you'll notice is that the pen has two very special details: a watch on the top of the cap and a miniature hourglass on the other end. The watch represents how humans measure time nowadays, and the hourglass reminds us how time is always passing. These aren't just decorations, they're fully functional and show how carefully this incredible writing instrument was actually made. The barrel of the pen is divided into three sections, symbolizing the past, present, and futures. And there's also a small gold brain on the cap to tie it all together. The clip is shaped like the index of a sundial or of a watch. And again, what's interesting is that Dr. Restak explains that our perception of time is one of the most fascinating parts of the brain. The way we plan for the future, how we reflect on the past and live in the moment, or maybe don't live in the moment, is actually what makes us human. Writing by hand can help us be more mindful of the present, allowing us to slow down and focus on our thoughts of now. Now, what's special is the fact that this nib here is a little bit different. It features an engraving with the left side being half of a brain and the other side being a half of a watch dial. Well, I think that we all agree that the Brain Trilogy of Montegrappa is much more than just a collection of pens, and it's actually a celebration of the human brain and of the act of writing. The brain pen, the memory pen, the time and brain pen, each tell a different story, but together they remind us of how special our ability to think, remember, and create truly is. And now, good fellows, I would like to know from you which one of these three pens speaks to you the most. Let us know in the comment below. Don't forget that every time that you comment, a lot of people reading your comments are taking a benefit out of your knowledge and out of your opinion, and that's exactly what makes this community so special. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for a lot of more content that is coming up in the next days and weeks. And as usual, don't forget that together we are changing the game.